Okay, a couple more things that we're going to go through to be able to finish up your assignment. We're going to start by drawing a few different circles. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of change these up a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and group these objects. So I can either click and hold shift and select all the objects, or I can just circle the objects that I want to select. And I'm going to go ahead and just right click and I'm going to hit group. Okay, and by doing this, I've now made them all connected, just like that. Okay, so if I'm on my selection tool, I move the whole thing. If I go ahead and choose this other arrow, it's called the direct selection tool. Even though my objects are grouped, I can go ahead and move one of those objects out, but they will still remain grouped together. So if I click the selection tool, they're all still grouped together. Okay, so that's a really important thing when you're using Illustrator. Also, which I don't know how many of you have used Photoshop. I know a couple of you have, but you can also use layers in Illustrator. And it is something that you probably will want to use at some point when you're working on, a more complicated creation. When you go to Windows, go ahead and click on layers and you will get your layers panel over here. And you can see that we have currently one layer. If I click my little triangle, I'll see that I have a group and then I have all my different paths within the same group. I can go ahead and click and I can actually move it around. If you can see that it's moving things in order. Okay, this is one way to do this. I can also click right here and create a new layer, and I can take one of these and put them in its own layer. Okay, I can turn the visibility off of that layer. So if I'm working on something in here and I don't want to be messing with this, I turn that off and I can work in here, but it's still there. We just can't see it. Another thing that you will find useful at some point, depending on how far we get into Illustrator, but is renaming your layers. And this is something that we will do in Photoshop. And it's to help keep you organized. And when you go into your project and you want to work on things and you're looking for things, if you have your layers named properly and you're organized, it's going to be that much better for you as you come up with your designs. So all you basically have to do is just double click and you can type whatever you want. You can actually go in and name the groups, you can go in and name the paths, you can do all of that right within that panel. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go over one last thing. Go ahead and type something using your text tool and make it about size, let's go with like 60. Okay, and I've already shown you how you can actually take it and resize it, okay, just by clicking and drag. And remember, if you hold down Shift, it's going to keep your perspective. Okay, so if it's something you don't want to distort, you want to hold down Shift. Okay, we're going to go ahead and use the Rotate and the Scale tool. And these are right here. The circle is a rotate tool, and then right next to it is the scale tool. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my rotate tool. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a pivot point. So depending on what you want to do with this, it will determine where you want your pivot point to be. So I'm going to come right over here, and I'm going to click right there to make my pivot point. And you'll see that it placed it right there. So now all I have to do is click and drag, and it's going to pivot around that point. Okay, simple enough. If I want to come back and change my pivot point, I can do so like that. Okay, now we're going to do the scale tool, and you kind of do this the same exact way. You choose a pivot point to set, and then from there you can see that it will scale it based around that pivot point. Okay, we'll flip it extend it, but it will stretch out from that point. Okay, that's it for this one.